Good afternoon. This is All India Radio. I'm Naresh Madhav, and with me is VC Pramod with the Midday News. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address the India Ideas Summit organized by US-India Business Council at 9 tonight. Recovered cases of COVID-19 cross 7.5 lakh mark. A record 28,472 people have recovered in last 24 hours. 45 newly elected members of Rajya Sabha take oath. Rajasthan Legislative Assembly Speaker decides to file special leave petition in Supreme Court over High Court direction on rebel Congress MLAs. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh inaugurates Air Force Commanders Conference in Delhi, lauds IAF's role during COVID-19 pandemic, and flood situation remains grim in Assam and Bihar, over 28 lakh people affected. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has congratulated nuclear scientists for achieving criticality of Kakrapar Atomic Power Plant 3 in Gujarat. In a tweet, Mr. Modi said, this indigenously designed 700 MWE CAP-3 reactor is a shining example of Make in India. He said this is a trailblazer for many such future achievements. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will lay the foundation stone for Manipur water supply project tomorrow through video conferencing. The Governor, Chief Minister of Manipur and his cabinet colleagues, MPs and MLAs are expected to join the program from Imphal. The centre has initiated the Jal Jeevan mission to provide safe and adequate quantity drinking water to every rural household of the country by 2024 with the motto Har Ghar Jal. The mission is based on a community approach to water and has information, education and communication as key components of the mission. It looks to create a Jan Andolan for water, thereby making it everyone's priority. There are about 19 crore households in India and only 24% have freshwater household tap connections. The government has provided funds under Jal Jeevan Mission to Manipur for FHTCs to cover 1,185 habitations with over 1,42,000 households. The Manipur government has planned to cover the remaining households through additional sources of funding, including funds from Department for Development of North-Eastern Region.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will deliver the keynote address at the India Ideas Summit today. The two-day summit, which began yesterday, is being hosted by the US-India Business Council. This year marks the 45th anniversary of the formation of the Council. The theme for this year's India's Ideas Summit is Building a Better Future. Prime Minister in a tweet said that he is looking forward to addressing the summit. More from our correspondent.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will provide perspective on how US-India partnership can shape the post-COVID world. The virtual summit will witness discussions on areas including India-US cooperation and future of the relation between the two countries in a post-pandemic world. It will feature high-level presence from Indian and US government policymakers, state-level officials and thought leaders from business and society. Key speakers at the summit include External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, Senator of Virginia and co-chair of Senate India Caucus Mark Warner, former US Ambassador to the United Nations Nikki Haley, among others. With Anand Chaturvedi, Suparna Saikia, AIR News, Delhi.
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh today said role of Indian Air Force in some of the most challenging circumstances is well regarded by the nation. Addressing the inaugural session of the Air Force Commanders Conference, Mr. Singh said IAF's contribution during the nation's response to COVID-19 pandemic has been highly praiseworthy. The theme of the three-day-long conference is Indian Air Force in the next decade. Our correspondent reports the commanders would take stock of the current operational scenario and deployments. The plan of action for operational capability of enhancement of the IAF in the next decade will also be discussed. Defence Secretary Ajay Kumar and Air Chief R.K.S. Bhadauria, among others, were present.
The recovered cases of COVID-19 today crossed the 7.5 lakh mark. The central government today said a total of 7,53,050 people affected with coronavirus have recovered in the country so far. With this, the recovery rate has reached 63.12%. The Health and Family Welfare Ministry has said a record 28,472 people have recovered in the past 24 hours. Presently, the total number of active corona cases in the country is 4,11,133. The Health Ministry has said a total of 37,724 new cases of COVID-19 have been reported in the country within 24 hours, taking the total number of cases to 11,92,915. In a single day, 648 deaths have been reported, taking the nationwide toll to 28,732. However, the case fatality rate is continuously declining in the country and it has reached 2.4%. Meanwhile, Indian Council of Medical Research (ICMR) has said that a total of 3,43,243 coronavirus samples were tested by various laboratories within 24 hours. So far, laboratories have conducted 1,47,24,546 tests. ICMR is continuously ramping up testing facilities in the country. At present, a total of 1,276 laboratories across India are conducting the test for COVID-19, including 892 government laboratories and 384 private laboratories chains. Our correspondent reports that in terms of recovery rate of coronavirus cases, Delhi is at the top with 84.82%, followed by Ladakh, Telangana, Haryana and Andaman and Nicobar Islands. In these 5 states and union territories, the recovery rate is above 75%. 19 states and union territories have better recovery rates than the national average of 63.12%. In terms of the number of people recovered from COVID-19, Maharashtra is leading the tally, followed by Tamil Nadu, Delhi and Telangana. There are 29 states and union territories which have lower fatality rates than the national average of 2.4%. In the total active cases, above 68% caseloads are from Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh. All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Delhi will hold the first session of National Clinical Grand Round CGR today at 3 p.m. The interactive session, which will be led by AIIMS Director Dr. Randeep Guleria, aims at facilitating an insightful discussion on common issues related to COVID-19. Doctors from medical colleges and senior physicians from hospitals located across the country and abroad will be participating in the online session. More from our correspondent.
AIIMS has been extensively involved in managing patients, developing guidelines, policies and research in COVID-19. The Medical Institute has managed over 4,000 patients of all severity of the disease in an effort to share its experience and initiate discussions on management of common issues related to COVID-19. AIIMS Delhi, in conjunction with Niti Aayog and Union Health Ministry, has launched the National Clinical Grand Rounds on COVID-19. These sessions will include presentation of clinical cases by physicians directly involved in COVID management. Challenges faced in the management will be discussed by a panel of eminent experts from across the country and outside India. Physicians can also ask questions related to patient management during the question and answer session. Anand Chaturvedi, AIR News, Delhi.
The first CGR session today will focus on managing patients with severe acute respiratory infection who are clinically suspected to have COVID-19 but test negative in the initial RT-PCR.
In Maharashtra, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, AIIMS Nagpur, in collaboration with IIT Jodhpur and Indian Institute of Information Technology IIIT Nagpur, has indigenously designed and developed a model for effective tracking and monitoring of COVID-19 positive and suspect patients. This device is in the form of a smart wristband. It is conceptualized by Dr. Prathamesh Kamble, Assistant Professor Physiology, AIIMS Nagpur. Dr. Kamble informed that this wristband can provide mobile-free operation using a geofencing technology which will provide real-time alert on any breach in the quarantine zone. The wristband, in addition, will provide real-time, objective and reliable data of vitals of the wearer like the temperature, pulse rate, respiratory rate and the oxygen saturation, so that the quarantine person will get a health alarm, thus helping them seek early medical help. This move will alert the monitoring personnel like the local authorities and officials. Director of AIIMS Nagpur, Major General Dr. Vibha Datta, said that the tracking and monitoring all the contacts is a very labor-intensive procedure. The newly invented wristband will definitely make this task much easier and cost-effective. Passengers arriving in Delhi by international flights will have to undergo a 7-day 7-day institutional quarantine at their own cost. The Delhi airport is informed that as per the guidelines in place for flight travel, international passengers will also have to undertake a 7-day home quarantine after the institutional quarantine. Passengers heading to other states will be screened by health officials from their respective states at designated places inside the airport premises. The state governments have been authorized to exempt institutional quarantine in case of people including pregnant women, death case in family, serious illness and for patients accompanied by children below the age of 10 years. Meanwhile, all domestic passengers will have to undergo mandatory thermal screening at the exit gates. Symptomatic passengers will be isolated and sent to the containment zone and later to a hospital by the airline authorities. The Delhi airport is informed that passengers arriving on an international flight under the Vande Bharat mission will be allowed to board the domestic flights operated under it. However, for boarding any other domestic flights, such passengers will have to obtain an exemption certificate. Our correspondent has reported that Delhi Airport has highlighted the key points of air travel guidelines in light of the increased frequency of international bound flights. Civil Aviation Minister Hardeep Singh Puri had announced commencement of air bubble system last week, allowing limited international flights from select countries.
The Speaker of the Rajasthan Legislative Assembly, Dr. C.P. Joshi, has said that he has decided to file special leave petition in the Supreme Court in relation to the intervention of the High Court on the notices issued by him to the rebel Congress MLAs. Addressing a press conference in Jaipur this morning, Dr. Joshi said that he has the right to issue show-cause notices on the applications he receives.
सिंपल शो काज नोटिस देने का अधिकार भी यदि इस कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अथॉरिटी के पास नहीं रहता है तो फिर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में जो एनविसेज किया गया उसका खतरा संसदीय लोकतंत्र को कमजोर करता है। इसलिए मैं आशा करता हूं कि जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट में हमारे एसएलपी पेश हो रही है उस एसएलपी का कॉग्निशन होगा और इस बारे में जो भी निर्णय होगा उस निर्णय को हम स्वीकार करेंगे और निश्चित तौर पर आने वाले समय में ये एक लैंडमार्क जजमेंट होगा।
The Speaker said that keeping in mind the dignity of parliamentary democracy, he has respected all the decisions of the High Court. More from our correspondent.
The issue started when 19 MLAs of Congress, including then Deputy Chief Minister Sachin Pilot, raised a rebellion voice against Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot. In view of the situation, meeting of the Congress Legislature Party had been called twice, for which the whip was issued, but the rebel MLAs did remain absent from the meeting. Chief Whip Mahesh Joshi filed a petition for disqualification of the rebel MLAs before the Speaker, following which notices were issued to the rebel MLAs from the Assembly. The notices were challenged in the High Court by the rebel MLAs, saying that it was an internal matter of the party and the Speaker issued hasty notices to them. On the other hand, the Speaker says that it is his right to issue notice on a petition. The hearing in the High Court has been completed and the verdict has been reserved till July 24. At the outset, many legal fronts have opened up in this entire case. Jitendra Dwivedi, AIR News, Jaipur.
Kerala has reported 4 more deaths due to COVID in the state today. More from our correspondent.
The deaths were reported each from Kollam, Kasaragod, Kozhikode and Kannur districts, taking the death toll in the state due to COVID to 48. The COVID cases are on a rise in Kerala lately, with majority of being contracted through local transmission. The coastal regions of the state is mostly under strict lockdown. Widespread COVID testing is being carried out in the containment zones across Kerala. Presently, 8,056 active COVID cases are there in the state. Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan called for an all-party meeting day after tomorrow to take stock of the COVID situation. The meeting will be held through video conferencing. Mayusha for AR News from Thiruvananthapuram.
Karnataka Chief Minister B.S. Yediyurappa is holding a day-long meeting with Bengaluru-based legislators today to discuss the measures to contain the pandemic in the city. The city is segregated into 8 zones, with ministers made in charge of each zone to focus on measures like tracing, tracking, testing and treatment of COVID patients. More from our correspondent.
All party legislators based in Bengaluru are attending the meeting along with ministers, officials and police personnel. The day-long meeting is called to have a greater coordination with the stakeholders for a concerted effort to contain the corona pandemic. In Bengaluru urban district, there are 26,746 active cases and has reported 720 deaths. After a week-long lockdown, the Bengaluru city has steered back to normal activities. The checkposts and roadblocks were removed. Roads are filled with traffic. Public transport has has resumed and shops and establishments have opened today. However, the containment zones remain sealed down. It is decided to continue the night curfew from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. till this month end. The lockdown on Sundays will also continue. Sudhindra, AIR News, Bengaluru.
The West Bengal government has decided to impose a twice-a-week lockdown in the state till August to stem the rise in COVID-19 cases. The state's caseload rose to 47,030 and death toll mounted to 1,182 till Tuesday. The state government has announced that this week's bi-weekly lockdown will be imposed on July 23rd and July 25th. A meeting chaired by Bengal CM Mamata Banerjee arrived at this decision, prompted by expert opinion that stressed the need to break the chain of infection. In view of the surge in cases of COVID-19, fresh lockdown restrictions have been imposed in many urban areas of Chhattisgarh from today. More from our Raipur correspondent.
A 7-day total lockdown has been reimposed from today in Raipur, Sarguja, Raigad and Baloda Bazar districts of Chhattisgarh. Similar restrictions will come into effect in the urban areas of Durg, Korba and Bilaspur districts from tomorrow. The roads of state capital Raipur wore a deserted look today. Law enforcing agencies, in coordination with the district administration, are strictly enforcing the lockdown. All shops, except medical stores, government, semi-government and private offices remain closed during this phase of lockdown restrictions. The public transport service has been suspended. Essential services, however, will be exempted during this phase. Traffic barricades have been installed at major traffic intersections in the city. Vikalp Shukla, AIR News, Raipur.
In Madhya Pradesh, there will be a lockdown for 2 days every week, including Sundays, in districts with high incidence of coronavirus cases. The number of COVID-19 cases in the state stands at 24,095, while the death toll has mounted to 756. As per the State Health Department, all 52 districts have active cases. Nagaland reported 57 new cases of COVID-19 this morning, taking the total confirmed cases in the state to 1,087. Health and Family Welfare Minister S. Pangyu Phom tweeted this morning that out of the 513 samples tested, 23 new cases were reported from Dimapur, 18 in Kohima, 7 in Zunheboto, 5 in Terin and 2 each in Mon and Mohokchung. The state's current active cases stand at 602, while 485 patients have recovered.
You are listening to the Midday News on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address the India Ideas Summit organized by US-India Business Council at 9 tonight. Recovered cases of COVID-19 crosses 7.5 lakh mark. A record 28,472 people have recovered in the last 24 hours. 45 newly elected members of Rajya Sabha take oath. Rajasthan Legislative Assembly Speaker decides to file special leave petition in Supreme Court over High Court direction on rebel Congress MLAs. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh inaugurates Air Force Commanders Conference in Delhi, lauds IAF's role during COVID-19 pandemic. Flood situation remains grim in Assam and Bihar, over 28 lakh people affected. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
The BMC has said the COVID-19 situation in Mumbai is in control, and with the number of positive cases being reported daily below 1,500. Yesterday, Mumbai registered an addition of 995 new cases. More from our correspondent.
Additional Municipal Commissioner Suresh Kakani said every day 6,000 to 7,000 tests are being done and most of the citizens are following the safety protocols. Kakani said the civic body will now focus on residential buildings and housing societies for raising awareness about hygiene, cleanliness, social distancing, need to wear masks and sanitization of common areas like lifts, staircases, lobbies and toilets. Kakani also said that Ganesh Mandals in the city have been asked to keep the Ganpati festival celebration simple and low-key this year and focus on social service. He said the civic body has come up with a concept, one word, one Ganpati. Devapriya Bhattacharjee, AIR News, Mumbai.
In Meghalaya, 24 new COVID cases were reported today, out of which 18 are from East Khasi Hills district, which includes 2 armed force personnel, 6 BSF personnel and 10 civilians. 2 from East Jaintia Hills district and 4 from West Garo Hills district. While 7 people have also recovered from COVID-19, which included 4 BSF personnel, 2 armed forces personnel and 1 civilian, all from East Khasi Hills district, informed the Directorate of Health Services. with 24 new COVID cases. The total number of active cases in Meghalaya stands at 433, out of which 366 are in East Khasi Hills District, 42 in Reebhoi District, 12 in West Garo Hills District, 5 in West Jaintia Hills District, 3 in East Jaintia Hills District, 2 in South Garo Hills, and 1 each in Southwest Garo Hills, East Garo Hills, and North Garo Hills districts. So far, the total number of detected cases in Meghalaya stands at 514, with 433 active cases. 77 have recovered and 4 have deceased.
In Uttarakhand, corona patients can get treatment in private hospitals. State Health Secretary Amit Negi has issued an order in this regard. As per the order, private hospitals will not refer corona-positive patients to government hospitals. The private hospitals will give treatment to these patients and inform the Chief Medical Officer or District Surveillance Officer about the patients. In Tripura, one more person has died due to COVID-19 at GBP Hospital in Agartala yesterday, taking a toll of 8 COVID-related deaths in the state. Meanwhile, another 254 fresh positive cases have been detected in the last 24 hours. With this, the positive cases in the state has risen to 3,394, of which 1,025 are active. With the growing number of positive cases in the state, Chief Minister Biplab Kumar Dev has held a meeting with his cabinet ministers and senior state government officials to take stock of the pandemic situation in the state.
In Mizoram, 20 persons have been tested positive for coronavirus infection in the past 24 hours. With this, the total tally has reached 317 in the state. Presently, there are 149 active cases, while 168 have recovered from coronavirus. Officials said that newly infected patients, including 16 personnel from Assam Rifles, 1 NDRF, 2 BSF and 1 civilian, have recently returned from different states. AIR correspondent reports that State Health Minister Dr. R. Lalthangliana yesterday held a meeting with the officials of Assam Rifles, Border Security Force and Border Roads Task Force and discussed measures to contain the spread of infections. The Health Minister advised the forces to take extra care and keep track of their personnel. He also advised setting up a COVID care center inside the complex of the forces. The Minister further said 76% of positive cases in the state are from the forces. In our series, Experts Speak on All India Radio, we bring you the views of the leading medical experts on COVID-19. Talking to AIR News, Dr. Uma Kumar, head of Rheumatology Department, AIIMS, suggested to people to follow social distancing, hand hygiene and cough etiquette.
जो तरीके हैं जिनसे ये कंट्रोल में पाया जा सकता है वो है सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग, रेस्पिरेटरी हाइजीन और या फिर कॉफ एटिकेट्स बोल देते हैं जिसमें खांसते और छींकते वक्त मुंह को कवर करना है और हैंड हाइजीन, अपने हाथों को बहुत फ्रीक्वेंटली वॉश करना है साबुन पानी से या फिर हैंड सैनिटाइजर का इस्तेमाल करना है। पॉजिटिव रहें, अपने आप को एंगेज रखें।
President of Public Health Foundation of India, Dr. K. Srinath Reddy, has said India is in a much better position as compared to the rest of the world as far as COVID-19 cases are concerned and the measures taken are yielding results.
अब तक जो नतीजे निकले हैं उससे पता चलता है कि ये वायरस का प्रभाव को रोकने में हम काफी कामयाबी हासिल कर चुके हैं दूसरे देशों के मुकाबले में। आज का हालात जो है उसमें कोई संशय नहीं है कि हमारा हालात दूसरे देशों के मुकाबले में बेहतर है इस वायरस को डट के मुकाबला देने में।
45 newly elected members of the Rajya Sabha today took oath. Rajya Sabha Chairman M. Venkaiah Naidu administered the oath to them in the House chamber. Among the MPs who administered the oath are BJP leaders Jyotiraditya Scindia and Deepak Prakash, Congress leaders Digvijay Singh and Mallikarjun Kharge, M. Thambidurai of AIADMK, Sharad Pawar of the NCP, Union Ministers Ramdas Athavale and Priyanka Chaturvedi of Shiva Sena. This is the first time that oath-taking of members took place in the House chamber during the inter-session period so as to maintain norms of physical distancing due to COVID-19. The Enforcement Directorate today conducted raids at 13 places in Rajasthan, West Bengal, Gujarat and Delhi in connection with a money laundering case linked to the fertilizer scam. The agency had filed a criminal case under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act based on a Customs Department complaint and charge sheet in the alleged fertilizer scam case. Official sources said the raids were conducted at 6 places in Rajasthan, 4 in Gujarat, 2 in West Bengal and 1 location in Delhi. The premises of Rajasthan Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot's brother were also raided in this case.
In Bihar, 16 teams of NDRF have been deployed for relief and rescue operations in flood-affected areas of the state. NDRF Commandant said the teams are equipped with modern gadgets and preventive COVID-19 kits. Chief Minister Nitish Kumar instructed DMs concerned to ensure evacuation of people living in low-lying areas of Gandak River to higher places. Over 25,000 people have been shifted to safer places so far. A strict vigil is being maintained on the river Gandak following heavy discharge of water from Valmiki Nagar barrage. More from our correspondent.
About 4 lakh people have been affected by floods in 8 districts including Sitamarhi, Darbhanga, Shohar and Supol. 210 panchayats of these districts are reeling under the impact of flood. Water level in Budi Gandak, Bagmati and Adhwara group of rivers are flowing above danger mark and maintaining rising trend. Flood water is engulfing new areas. Met Department has issued an alert for heavy rain in the next 24 hours in northern parts of the state. District administration of Sitamarhi, Muzaffarpur, Darbhanga and Khagaria has been put on alert. With KK Lal's report from Patna, Tripti Srivastav, AIR News.
In Assam, incessant rains have thrown life out of gear at many places. Several rivers, including the Brahmaputra, are flowing above the danger level. Over 24 lakh people are affected due to floods in 25 districts. Surging water and erosion have also damaged roads, embankments and bridges. Road communication is largely disrupted due to floods. 44,000 people are staying in 276 relief camps. The death toll due to floods has gone up to 88 today. District administration, in association with SDRF and NDRF, are carrying out relief and rescue measures. 130 persons have been evacuated to safer places this morning.
Mumbai Special PMLA Court has rejected the bail petition of Yes Bank founder Rana Kapoor, who is an accused in a multi-crore fraud at the bank. Special Judge P.P. Rajavedya rejected Kapoor's plea that the investigation in the case is complete, hence there is no reason to keep him in jail. The banker, currently in judicial custody, was arrested in March under provisions of the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. The Enforcement Directorate is primarily investigating Kapoor, his wife and 3 daughters over an alleged receipt of 600 crore rupees from an entity linked to the scam hit Dewan Housing Finance Limited. Rain lashed the national capital today, inundating low-lying areas and affecting traffic movement in parts of the city. Met Department said the rains covered most parts of Delhi and the adjoining areas of Haryana and Uttar Pradesh. It had predicted widespread rainfall with isolated heavy to very heavy rain in Delhi, Haryana, Punjab, Chandigarh, Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand and Union Territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. The rainfall intensity and distribution are very likely to decrease significantly from tomorrow onwards. Yesterday, Delhi recorded moderate rainfall at most places. Now let us take a look at the weather updates for today. The national capital Delhi may have a generally cloudy sky with heavy rain. The minimum temperature was recorded at 24 degrees Celsius, while the maximum is expected to be around 33 degrees. Mumbai will have a generally cloudy sky with light rain. The city experienced a minimum temperature of 27 degrees Celsius and will have a maximum of around 33 degrees. In Chennai, the temperature will hover between 28 and 34 degrees Celsius and the sky will be partly cloudy. Kolkata will have generally cloudy sky with few spells of rain or thunder showers. The city had a minimum temperature of 26 degrees Celsius. The maximum temperature will be nearly 32 degrees. In Jammu and Kashmir, the minimum temperature was 23 degrees Celsius in Jammu, while the maximum will be around 29 degrees. The city is likely to have a partly cloudy sky with possibility of rain or thunderstorm or dust storm.
And now, before we end this bulletin, the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address the India Ideas Summit organized by US-India Business Council at 9 tonight. Recovered cases of COVID-19 cross the 7.5 lakh mark. A record 28,472 people have recovered in the last 24 hours. 45 newly elected members of Rajya Sabha take oath. Rajasthan Legislative Assembly Speaker decides to file special leave petition in Supreme Court over High Court direction on rebel Congress MLAs. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh inaugurates Air Force Commanders Conference in Delhi. Lauds IAF's role during COVID-19 pandemic. And flood situation remains grim in Assam and Bihar. Over 28 lakh people affected. For details of these stories and more, log on to our website www.newsonair.com and News on AIR app. And with that, we end the Midday News.